So these are all the questions and things that we like to think about from a culinary aspect, how we can develop a product and a shelf-stable one at that. That means a dried product. How do we build formulas and to incorporate some of these aspects? So what I've done here is kind of the last part is kind of taking what, sorry the thing cut it off, but kind of incorporating what we just discussed into what we would call a very rough. So when I think of a formula, I think of it as 100% thing. So I like to use a pie graph, right? So you have a full circle, and obviously your chives are not going to be as strong as, let's say, your potato, or let's say your bacon. Maybe it is, but I guess when I think of chive, I'm thinking of it as kind of that onion top thing that goes on the top that kind of provides that flair. But it's not something that you want it to be as a dominating flavor. So when you think about not only these aspects, so we have maybe 8 things here. They're not broken down evenly. So it's not like 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. It's broken out in how you would make your loaded potato. So when I think of it, and this obviously isn't specific, but when I think of a potato loaded baked, I think that maybe 65% of that overall flavor profile that you get is your potato, that potato base, and maybe 90% of that 65 is that boiled kind of just that normal potato flavor, and then maybe a 5%, a small smidgen of that potato. Overall, 65% is that skin of that earthy flavor. Subsequently, like the other fixings, if you want to call them, or yummy ingredients that we put on are broken down, like cheddar cheese and bacon. Maybe that's another 10%, yes?
I got a question about the formulas. When you're coming up with these, do you have any sort of formula that you use to get these numbers, or do you just assign how you feel they would work best?
It's something that I think takes a little time to understand, but it more or less is a lot of just benchtop work.
Okay.
It's not a specific recipe that we go off of. In this particular product, let's say that so there's 2 pouches. So let's say in this 1 pouch of potatoes, in product, you have maybe 80% potatoes and 20% seasoning. So we can use that as like a very rough guideline of this. So let's say your potato, then that 80% instead of being 65, it's 80%. So then the rest of that 25% of weight is put into these extras. And so then in the bench top, we take that, let's say you want to keep your potato constant, but you want to tweak some of these profiles, or let's say, since this is creamy butter, right? And we wanted to create a loaded, for example, but use the same format as this. So we would take 80% potatoes, again, take that 20%, and instead of it being, in this particular product, butter, buttermilk, and cream, we would incorporate these flavors into that 20%. And then kind of experiment with all the different flavors. And again, these are dried ingredients, so like cheese powders, cheese flavors, sour cream flavors, chive flavors. And when I break down potato, some of the potato, we use potato flakes in these products. There is inherently some potato flavor just naturally coming on the potato flake itself. But in some of our products, we do add an actual potato flavor to enhance that potato feeling in your mouth.
So say you created your gold standard and that picture right there was your gold standard.
Yep.
Would you then go back and reweigh the ingredients that you used to create that graph, that pie chart?
I'm getting lost. Okay, so like,
Okay, that's your gold standard, right? That's what it, you know,
yep,
that's how you want it to taste as well. So would you go back and reweigh all the ingredients that you have on there, if you tasted that and that's how you wanted it to taste too, and to create the numbers that you have in your chart?
you could. We call that, what do we call that? Not re-engineering, but you're kind of dissecting your product.
Right.
Let's say you want to do like a soup, for example, and you want to figure out how much celery is in there, or how much carrot is in there, or however many like different ingredients are in there. You can sieve out all the ingredients and figure that out. What's difficult with taking this into this is that maybe your weight, for example, of here is like almost 95% potato, let's say, and you have 5% flavor or extra stuff on top, theoretically, okay? But if you were to translate that into a dried situation, if you had the same amount of potato, you wouldn't get that profile if you had that less of seasonings. So more or less, when you create a gold standard in my dried situation, in my dried potatoes, it's different with soup, I think. But you use this as a concept, as a flavor concept, and you taste it and you kind of figure out where you want to go as a concept. And then once you've made this product, we call it cut, but you compare it to this.
Right.
But it's not like if you have 10 grams of bacon here, you put 10 grams of bacon in here, sometimes that it doesn't always work that way. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Who determines the per serving quantity? Like in the sense, do you have like a standard per serving, like this box feeds 4 people or this box feeds 3 people?
Yep. So what we go off of is a certain gram amount, and that's dictated by the FDA. So for example, I think dried potatoes, dried salads, and I think dried side dishes overall go by a 2/3 or by a certain weight amount. So in our sense, it's 140 grams is 1 serving. So when you make this one, so there's 2 recipes to this one box, but let's pretend that there's just 1 pouch in this box. When you make this 1 pouch with the consumer ads, and you're claiming on your box 4 serves, then it has to be 100, so including this pouch as well as all the milk, the water, the butter, all of that weight needs to equal 140 times 4. So like, let's say that for a cost, we're talking about earlier, 60% of my job is talking about cost initiatives. How can we save money? Well, what if this pouch makes 4 servings and I want to save money and go down to 3.75 servings, right? So you would take 145 or 140 times 375 and try to engineer this product, downsize it a little bit, and that savings that I'm getting will help that cost. Does that make sense?
So you're shrinking the product.
Essentially, yeah. You're giving them less overall, but keeping the price the same.
Interesting.
I'm confused, like, how is it, like, okay, like high fructose corn syrup for one thing. We obviously don't have that at home, we're not cooking with that at home. But like, that goes into so many of like processed food products, like, I'm just using that as an example because I can pronounce that one. But like, how do you know to substitute that? Like, that's just so beyond my thinking process.
Your product's not very high.
No, it's not, and I'm just like, how would you know how to, like, put that in there and incorporate it in there and fill foods with it so that it's a better product at a cheaper price?
It's kind of like, I think we're all driven by nature to make things easier, and make things cheaper, right? Like, so